Hey everyone, it's Professor Smith. So right now I'm outside. I'm about to go ahead and start finding a tree just to demonstrate what you need to be doing for your project. So there's a couple of apps you could use. I like to use Picture This, so I'm just going to demo this using Picture This to help us identify what plant we're going to go ahead and do for our project. So I have the app open. I also have my location on too, because it just helps us pinpoint when we're trying to identify what it is we are actually doing for, as far as like identifying the specimen. So I have plenty of options to choose from. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a picture of this bad boy right here. Okay, so it's identifying it. And you could look through the other ones, right? And obviously choose the one that makes the most sense, right? So, for example, how can I know for sure that I'm picking the one that makes the most sense? So, if you look at people often ask, you scroll down even further, characteristics, right? It can tell you what type of habitat you should be looking at. More conditions, and it also gives you the classification too, which should be really important for when you're filling out the observation form. So another thing that you could look at too, as far as helping you to identify what it is by looking at the other pictures for the identified species, as far as like options that it's giving you. So I think it mainly looks like this, right? I can zoom in on the leaves for this picture, zoom in on the leaves for my picture, and just kind of like do a comparison, if you will. So let's see. Yeah, I'm thinking like this is probably it. This is the one. So I'm gonna go ahead and just click add to my garden. And look, you can go ahead and go back to it too. More plant information. And again, all that information is there for you on the app itself. So the description for mine, as far as like what I clicked, is a Chinese pistache. So one of the cool things that you could do as far as like further for identification is to get look at the description of it. You can also too take a see the botanical name, actually in this case the scientific name, Google that information and go from there. Again, like I said, you can also look at other images that people have taken of this tree. Just kind of use like the most common sense, use your best process of elimination, if you will. One thing that I wanted to clarify, as far as like utilizing the description to help you figure out what species it is that you have, that you're looking at essentially. So for the description, it says Chinese pistache is a medium-sized tree related to the cashew family of trees. Chinese pistache is used in landscaping in lined city streets and urban areas. So that line right there just kind of like gives me a better idea for the tree that I just took a picture of. That's probably the tree that I'm looking at, just based off of that one description right there. Again, you can always look at other pictures from the other options that the app is giving you, but again, just use your common sense and process of elimination. And of course, you can always use Google to help you figure out, to make sure you have the correct species identified. Okay, so now that I've identified my tree, let's talk about the Google form that we're filling in. So let's say this is the tree, I've decided on you, let's do this, okay? And so if I look here, right, I want to pick the end of the tree. So the end of the branch in the sense of the end of the tree. So, and we're looking at 5 different leaves at this point, right? As far as like if you have like this back and forth going on, it doesn't matter as far as the order, as long as the order makes sense, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I'm going to decide to look at these leaves, look at this branch, these particular leaves from this tree. One of the ways that you can do in order to help you kind of like remember which branch you looked at is a couple of things. You could tie a ribbon to the branch. I have a clippy. You could just tie a clippy, just something that isn't going to harm the plant, but also something that will help you remember which branch of the tree that it is you're looking at, okay? So let's go ahead. I'm also going to take a picture of this, so that way it helps me for when I'm filling out the form, or actually what you probably should be doing is just filling out the form right then and there as you're going ahead and identifying it. So best thing to do is to make sure you have Canvas. So Canvas is free. So I'm going to go to the class. And so for my class, where you can find this Google form is in the modules. And so I have it listed under resources and named Plant Phenology Observation Google Form. And again, just depending upon where your instructor has placed the link, go ahead and open up that link. And then from there, what you want to do is obviously fill out what section you're in. So for me, right, I'd fill out Smith. Make sure you go ahead and plug in your full name, first and last name. Please be consistent as far as like filling that information in. What is the date? Pick today's date, the scientific name, etc. So again, in the moment, as we are clearly outside, right, you want to go ahead and look at that branch. You've decided this is the branch I'm going to observe and go from there. So please choose where on the scale you think it is currently. So it looked pretty green. The third leaf back from the apex, that one looked pretty green. The fifth leaf back from the apex, that one looked pretty green too. And then overall, if I look at the entire tree, right, and I can go ahead and get out of this for a second and just show you my tree. And if I'm looking at the tree, right, not all of the leaves are there, right? If I look around my tree, I can see that some of the leaves have fallen off of some of these branches. So if I go back to that form, I can say I'm probably going to guesstimate that it's not definitely a 1, but maybe a 2 or a 3. Again, just make your best judgment from there and then submit. And of course, again, put your first and last name. And once you've submitted it, you're done. That's it. Now, does that mean you're done? You just do it one time? No. Make sure you are taking observations 3 times a week. And as long as you're keeping it consistent and just making it accessible on your phone, this should be a piece of cake.